So is the Suicide Squad the best DC movie ever? Yeah, yes it is. It's fantastic. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watch Our Pass, and I just got back from a screening of the Suicide Squad, which is, of course, the gritty, realistic reboot of the earlier Suicide Squad. No, it's insane. It's an insane film. It is an amazing film. It is fantastic. It's over 2 hours of just pure, unadulterated insanity, fun, violence, and action. It is a treat. It is a fantastic movie. I'm going to go into a little bit about the film, three things I liked, three things I didn't like, and then talk a little bit about the ending. So if you don't want to know what happens in the film, then go ahead. You can check out my review on watchyourpass.com. It's where I post my written reviews. They're much shorter, they're vague, and they won't go into any spoilers, so you can feel free to read that. Or you can watch the film when it comes out on HBO Max and in theaters on August 6, 2021, and then come back and watch this video. Or if you really just want to know what happens because you're a giant DC fan, then let's go. But you've been warned. In the Suicide Squad, you have this concept where these supervillains are taken out of this prison and put on insane missions in order to get some time off on their sentences. In the film, one of the characters was offered 10 years off of their sentence if they did this mission, and it's almost a death wish, but they have to try, and it's probably better than being in prison. So the film gathers this squad of villains, but lovable villains, and drops them into this tropical island nation. And their mission is to go and attack this lab slash stronghold building called Jotunheim. And so the group is composed of this random set of characters. You've got Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. You've got Idris Elba as Bloodsport, who has I don't know their powers completely, so I'm just going off of what they did in the film. He is super accurate, and he has all these transforming weapons on his character, so he could just pull out guns and weapons from anything, and basically he can make anything into a weapon. And then you had John Cena, Peacemaker, who also was super accurate and very strong, and he had this kind of code of justice that caused him to murder everyone. You had Joel Kinnaman as the non-villain. He was an army colonel, I believe he was Army Colonel, Rick Flag, and he was there to kind of corral this ragtag group. And then you had David Dastmalchian as Polka Dot Man, who was my favorite character in this movie, and that's why I'm wearing this polka dot tie, because Polka Dot Man was the best. And then you have Daniela Melchior as Ratcatcher 2. Her ability was to control rats with with a special machine that her father, who was Ratcatcher 1, gave her. And you also had Sylvester Stallone as King Shark, who was voicing King Shark. King Shark is this giant, kind of slow but lovable shark creature that is basically their muscle, kind of like Groot, except more deadly and a little bit smarter, because he can say a few more things than Groot. But you have this insane group of characters that go in and try to attack Jotunheim. So and as you would expect, if you've got all these villains who are very good at killing, there is all sorts of violence, but there's so much humor and just color and insanity. And I'm going to go into now the three things I loved about this film, and spoilers, four things. The first is the insanity. I mean, this film it's insane. Everything is over the top. Like, everything is over the top. The violence is over the top. The comedy is over the top. The characters are over the top. The action is insane. Like, everything about this film is just entertaining. It is so much fun to watch. You'll go from this ridiculous fight where there's explosions and they murder 1,000 people. The whole movie is just pure, unadulterated fun, but a very violent, insane kind of fun. Like, kind of think, this is basically like if Deadpool and Guardians of the Galaxy without the space kind of merged together and created this insane mashup, and it's a lot of fun to watch. The second thing that I loved about this movie is the action and the violence. Like, this film is a hard R. It is a very hard R, and that's because the action is insanely over the top. Like, you see them kill everyone and everything with abandon. There's a really fun scene where Cena, who's the peacemaker, and Idris Elba, who is a Bloodsport, kind of go back and forth and try to kill people with these, more over the top methods as they're trying to one up each other. It's a very kind of machismo moment. And then you've got character, there's a certain level of irreverence as well to the violence. So you'll have some characters that we meet at the start and they just jump into the fray and they die. Like it's a very kind of knowing and funny and kind of sarcastic feel to this film. Like I really love when you're introduced to these heroes and you don't know what their powers, and then you finally see it and it's almost useless, but it's so clever. And then of course that hero probably gets killed because their power is not very useful. The third thing I loved is the humor. I mean, the film is very funny. Like I can't even explain, like, I can only remember a specific joke, but there are so many just funny situations and funny things that happen. The film is all sorts of insanity, and I think a lot of it during the Q&A after there, it seemed like some of that was just kind of off the cuff ad lib, off the cuff interactions between the cast, because the cast was such a good cast and they were so fun together. Their interactions made everything that much better, that much more enjoyable. And I think the biggest testament to this film, and I don't have the cast in here, but the cast is also fantastic as well, is that there really isn't a perfect hero in this movie. The hero is the squad, and it's how they all interact with each other and how they play off each other. And that, I think, is a testament to the actors for all, getting along so well, and also to James Gunn for kind of balancing everything. All the individuals that you meet, they're balanced, and each person gets kind of a little bit of the spotlight, and no one kind of takes it all. And I guess technically Bloodsport would be the main character, but there are so many other amazing, memorable scenes in the film that he is kind of the leader of the group. But I think every character in the Suicide Squad is its own important person, and together the main character is the entire squad. So the last thing I loved, and to be clear, the movie is fantastic. There's a lot more things I loved about it, but the last thing that was really noticeable to me is the music. The music has the film has this great soundtrack. There's kind of like there's grunge tracks, there's high energy tracks. It is a treat for your eyes and your ears, and it's something that you'll be tapping your foot as this terrible murder happens, or you'll be listening to this kind of grunge music as they kind of go over their plan. It's a really great soundtrack that fits perfectly onto the insanity that is the film. Things I didn't like, I mean, really there's nothing. I mean, the Suicide Squad is just pretty much pure entertainment. It is a very fun 2 hours and 5 minutes, and I didn't even mind the length because I was enjoying it the entire time. I guess if there was one thing that I didn't love, it's that there was a certain character died, and that made me very sad because I very much liked that character. But I'll get into that in the ending, which I'm going into now. So as I mentioned, the Suicide Squad's mission was to assault Jotunheim. And shout out to Destiny players. Jotun is again overpowered. And so the reason they need to attack this place is because there is this space starfish. And again, the ridiculousness of the film, and I think the willingness of DC to let James Gunn use these characters and bring up some of these kind of insane comic relics, or insane comic characters into this film and have it be kind of an irreverent tribute to them, was a really great move on both of their parts, because it made, you had some characters that you could tell were just in there because they were purely ridiculous. And I'm very glad that DC kind of allowed that to happen, like knew that they would be funny and knew that they would be a good use in this film, and kind of allowed that. So the Jotunheim, it has like a space starfish that it shoots out these little starfish that then like attach to their hosts' faces, like face hugger style, and then those then become kind of zombies, extensions of the main starfish. And so they kind of form a collective. So if the main starfish gets hurt, all the zombie starfish people feel the pain as well. They all talk as one. And it's kind of like this growing army. And it seems like as the starfish creature gets more and more zombie minions, it grows bigger and bigger. And so the US, I guess, set this up with the previous regime of this tropical country. And then when there was a coup, they sent the Suicide Squad in to destroy Jotunheim and destroy the evidence that this was, that this was set up. So they get to Jotunheim and they start to rig it with explosives. They're going to just collapse. It's this giant pillar, so they're going to rig explosives on every floor and just kind of collapse it down into one thing. But what happens is, while they're rigging it, there's some enemies that come, and in the firefight, the explosives go off. And so they go off early. You have this really great over-the-top scene where, the building is starting to collapse and everyone is trying to run away and trying to get to stable ground. And again, it's just a very exciting film. And when these explosions go off, it frees the giant starfish creature, which I don't remember the name of it, but it was a giant starfish with an eye like right in the center. And so at this point, the starfish thing is like 6 stories tall. But before it breaks free, some members of the Suicide Squad, Cena and Colonel Flag and Ratcatcher 2, they discover the lab, where they discover the lab and some data in the lab that kind of shows the history of this lab and the US involvement. And Colonel Flag has this moment of, I guess, of conscience when he says, like, the public needs to see this. And what we find out then is that Peacemaker has kind of an alternate mission. He's there to make sure that none of the data get out. And so he fights Flag. Eventually he wins, but the data gets kind of, thrown along in the side, and the Ratcatcher 2 gets it. And so she also has this moral compass, and so she also wants to release the data, and Peacemaker is about to kill her when Bloodsport drops out from the sky because he was dropping from this, collapsing building. So he drops down, they fight, Bloodsport wins. And so now the Suicide Squad members are King Shark, Harley Quinn, Bloodsport, Ratcatcher 2, and Polka Dot Man. And so essentially their mission is over. Their mission is over. They've destroyed Jotunheim. They didn't mention the data, but as far as they know, their mission is over. And this giant starfish is attacking the city and making its own starfish slaves. So they're told, all right, mission's over, time to go. And they say, no, like, we're not gonna leave this city to kind of just be destroyed. They all get this moment of conscience and they start going towards the city. And what happened earlier is, in order to make sure that they comply with all the commands that they were given from the agency that's freeing them for this mission, they had little like explosives put into their head/neck, and if they get triggered, then they essentially die. And so luckily they call the bluff. One of the people is about to blow them up and they get overpowered. So the Suicide Squad is free to go and save the city. But what they find out is that they're pretty much overmatched. But this is Bloodsport's time to shine. He kind of gets everyone involved. He uses their individual special powers, and he becomes this kind of leader because he tells them to each do the things that they're strong at. But in the fray, Polka Dot Man, the best hero in this film, dies. So moment of silence for Polka Dot Man. Okay. And what happens is, even though they're all kind of fighting and using their powers to the fullest, they are only kind of slowing down the giant starfish, and they're not hurting it enough until Ratcatcher 2 uses her power and draws forth this just kind of army of rats. It's like a New York City level number of rats that go and start attacking the starfish. And the thing about the rats is that they're tenacious. So they kind of cover it and just start biting it, and it's kind of confused. It doesn't really know what to do. And there's this really amazing little sweet scene that happens with Ratcatcher 2 where she has this kind of moment in her past. I'm not going to spoil that because it was very sweet and I love that scene. So the rats are attacking, and while this was going on, Bloodsport told Harley Quinn to go high, and she is on the top of this building with this javelin from one of the earlier heroes. I think it was the Javelin. I think that's what his name was. He died. His power was not very good. So she has the javelin, and she runs and just kind of barrels towards the starfish, pokes the javelin right in its eye. She goes through the eye into the starfish, the jelly inside of it, and the rats go through as well, and they start eating the starfish on the inside. So, as you'd imagine, if you're getting eaten from the inside by a swarm of rats, the starfish doesn't last very long. They win. They save the city. They're heroes. It's a lovely end. And then what happens is they use the data that they secured to bargain for their freedom. They basically say, look, we'll release this if you ever cross us or ever tell us to do a mission again. We'll release this, so just let us go. And the agency agrees. So now they're free. Now they've paid their dues. They're kind of this new, weird, fun family, and they're free. They want, so credits, end credits. But there's a stinger, as you would expect. It's a superhero movie. There's always a stinger, and you're taken to a hospital where two members of the agency are there, and they say, we need to check on this patient. We need him for a mission. He's going to save the world. And it pans over to the hospital bed, and there's Peacemaker, still alive, very, very beat up, but still alive, and kind of in a coma. But I think the implication is that he'll wake up and have this new mission. And that's that's The Suicide Squad. It is coming out on August 6, 2021. It is a fantastic superhero movie. It's a fantastic DC movie. It's a fantastic Marvel movie. I mean, I know these aren't Marvel characters, but it's a similar style to some of the crazy Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy type movies, which you would expect because it's James Gunn. So it is wonderful. Watch it when it comes out, either in theaters or on HBO Max. It's coming to both. I mean, I guess I would recommend in theaters if you're comfortable. I mean, we'll see what happens. That's over a week away. We don't know what the world's gonna be like. But if you're comfortable going to theaters, it's a great experience in theaters because you get the big sound, the big picture, and you get the audience experience. I mean, there's a lot of very funny, insane scenes that you'll get that kind of collective enjoyment from. So that's The Suicide Squad. Make sure to watch it. And thank you so much for watching this. If you liked this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot and make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you. Oh, and the film has prominent orange Crocs in the start. When they're in the prison, they're wearing orange Crocs, and I don't think I'll ever be able to bring these out for a video. So I figured I would showcase them here. So that's The Suicide Squad. That's another reason why this film is so great. So watch it. Thank you.